Okay, how's it going, guys? This was my highest rated win ever, so against a 1372. Very proud to have succeeded this game, and yeah, I'm happy to take you through it. So, start with e4. My opponent plays b6. I already don't know what to do. I just decide to play in the center. So, I try to follow principles as best I can. Against weird openings, I don't know. I just play in the center, try to develop my pieces, follow opening principles. At some point I have to kind of go through and analyze what do I do against b6. But I'm not there yet. Okay, so this is the first kind of inaccuracy is I play f4. I'm not really sure why this is a mistake. My opponent plays d6. The engine's saying that d5 is sort of the more principled move, that it's getting, we're looking to play c5 in the future, and so this would be a different game. So if they play d5, I could play e5. And now black's playing for c5, and so you get all this sort of pressure in the center. So black's putting pressure in the center, and white has pressure on the other side. So, this is a totally different game. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I would play knight f3 or knight e2, something like that. Okay, so, right, instead we get d6, and just develop some pieces. So both sides develop pieces. And now this is the first, real positional misunderstanding of the game, I think, for me, is e5. So this has a few problems. So by pushing to e5, it gives up defense of the f5 square, which means the knight can just come in, and that's actually what my opponent played. And the other big disadvantage is it opens this bishop up. So whereas before, if black moved one of the pawns, I could push the other pawn to close off the bishop. But now, when I play this move, they can kind of trade off, or, they can just keep this center open permanently for the bishop. So this bishop kind of becomes a menace once I play e5. Okay, yeah, so my opponent plays knight f5, taking advantage of my mistake, and they're attacking the bishop on e3. So it currently has no defender, so I just play a move to defend the bishop, and I thought this was a good active square for my queen. I was wrong. So see if you can find, the winning tactical sequence here for black. So give me a couple seconds. It's not super, it's not really winning material or anything. It's like a positional tactic. I don't know. Okay, so the idea here is black should take on f3. This doubles my pawns, and it actually opens this diagonal too. So now black can trade off this bishop if they want. Actually, they should. And now black can play queen h4 check. And I can't block with the queen because then I lose a pawn. So I have to move the king somewhere, and now I can't castle. My position's kind of gotten screwed up here. I've got double pawns. My king's out in the middle, and black can castle to safety. Either way, yeah. So I totally missed this, and so a move I can play instead to prevent this is I can try to keep the queen on the same diagonal as the knight. This isn't losing as much as it is in the other round, because now if they take here, I can take with the queen. And we're actually putting pressure on the rook, which is defended by the queen, so not really. But yeah, if you go down the same line, we can take with the queen and then take with the queen, and so we're still doing well in this. We can still castle. We're all good. And then of course the best move, which probably the most natural move, I don't know why I didn't really consider it, is just to play bishop f2. So congratulations if you are screaming at your screen. Yeah, bishop f2 is great. Should have seen this, but live and you learn. Okay, instead I played queen d3. My opponent missed the tactic, so they took on e3. I was able to take back with the queen, and now if they try to take my knight, I can just take back with the queen again. Okay, they play d5. I was very happy to see this move when I was playing, just because my opponent's trying to play for c5, which I get. But yeah, this cuts off the bishop, which I thought was the best piece in their position, so pretty happy to see d5. I decide to castle long, and so now the plan is going to go, I'm going to push on the king side here. My opponent's going to push on the queen side. So they go ahead and play a6, looking to push this pawn without it getting taken, and also preventing my pieces from coming to the square. And I go for g4, looking to play f5 next. And you can see the attacks coming in. All right, so we both push pawns. My opponent pushes b5. I play f5, trying to take in the center. My opponent plays c5, and now I get to play this nice f takes e6 move, which at the very least is going to open up the king. If my opponent tries to do something over here, which they think it's attacking the queen, I can take his knight, win a piece, which whatever they take back with, we can take back in the center, and we've won this knight. So pretty cool. So yeah, my opponent's forced to take back on e6. Now we have this nice open diagonal. We can try to put some pressure on, and we're just going to try to get over here. Okay, this move I was very proud of after looking in the post game, because in the post game analysis, I was trying to figure out during the game, like, okay, how am I going to respond to something like b4 and, you know, c takes. So I was kind of nervous, and I'm very happy to have spotted knight e2. This reinforces my d pawn, and it also helps route my pieces over to the king side, because I can play knight f4 later. So yeah, very happy to have found this move. You know, they always teach you to play attacking moves, so in this case I'm very happy to have found a retreating move. So my opponent plays c4. I really think, I don't know, if it were me playing, I would have traded on d4. The engine thinks it's fine. But I just thinks that both are fine. I just thought that, like, if you take here, you open up a file, you put pressure on the king. Engine disagrees, so whatever. Okay, so see, we get c4, and now I play h4. I'm just trying to push pawns on the king side, trying to take some space, make an attack. And so now I get to play that knight f4 move I was talking about. When my opponent plays bishop e7, it stops me from moving this knight in. So let's say I try to move this knight in. They can take this knight. If I take back with the queen, my opponent can trade queens, and now I've got doubled pawns, and the attack's sort of shut down. I believe the engine has this at 0.5 or so for me, whereas before I was at about 1.5 or 2. So this kind of shuts down my advantage if I try to play this move. And we go through that line. And so the alternative is like a take with the pawn, which prevents the queen trade, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to attack with these pawns in the way. Okay. So instead I get to play this knight f4 move, which I put pressure on this pawn. I guess the only two moves to defend the pawn are king f7 and knight f8. So we see knight f8. I play bishop h3. So trying to add another attacker here. And at this point, after I played bishop h3, I was like, what happens if black plays g5? I was like, I don't know. It's going to force my knight to the edge of the board. And I thought this was, like, bad. The engine says, like, I'm crushing here. It says that g6 is a big mistake. Because I get to play, like, basically whatever black does, I get to play knight f6 next. So I think this is one of the lines. Take here. And it says that white's crushing in this position, probably because this pawn, everything's opened up in the center. I can probably play one of my rooks to e1, adding pressure to this pawn, and it's a bit easier to attack on e6, I guess. I didn't really understand this line in the game. I was just very scared of g5 happening. Instead, in the game, we saw bishop c8, which defends the pawn again. So now they got two defenders. So now when I play g5, I'm not really threatening to win this pawn because it's adequately defended. Then black plays b4, still trying to take space. Okay, and now this is sort of where I think this is where I need to learn in my chess. I need to learn to play sort of quiet moves. So one of the best moves in this position is king b1. King b1. And this is a move I was actually thinking of, but I just thought, boring. But I think I need to learn to play just solid, boring chess sometimes. This is a really solid move. Basically the last 5 moves or so, it's been screaming at black to play queen h5. I don't know about the last 5 moves, but there's a good period in this game where black should have played queen a5. And if I play king b1, it helps to defend this a2 square, and it also makes it easier to respond to one of these pawn pushes. Like, I didn't really know what I would do if we faced a move like c3. I was probably going to play b3, but this just makes this threat all the worse. With my king on b1, it's not so bad. But when this happens when I play my move here, rook g1, now if they play c3 and I try to play b3, we get this line where my king's opened up, and it's sort of hard to play for white. I'm getting under threat, black's getting counterplay, and it's more of an even game now. It's anyone's game. Okay, so anyway, enough of that. This is the move I play. I'm trying to push the pawn, and now black makes a big mistake. So see if you can find the win for white here. That's not a win. It wins material. Okay, so good job if you found knight takes d5. This is something I missed when I was playing the game. For one move. I got out of the next move, guys. Don't worry. But for this move, I missed it. Yeah, this is just winning. I'm attacking the knight. I'm attacking the bishop. We're opening up the file on the king. And they can't take back, of course, because it's pinned. Okay, so I missed that. Instead, I played g6. My opponent also missed it, so they played h6. And now I can go ahead and take in the center. Yeah, so very happy. Okay, we get king c6, and you can see my opponent's just pushing their king into the open. The engine actually has sort of a hard time finding good moves for black at this point. I think it kind of agrees on queen a5 at some point, but you know, it's getting hard to play for black just because I have so many pieces and there's so many open lines to the king, and my king's sitting pretty over on c1. Okay, so I get to take this bishop with check. They take back, and now see if you can find a tactic for white here. So congratulations if you found queen e4. This is not what I played in the game. And I'm actually going to turn on the engine here because I think this is pretty funny. So if you look at the top 3 moves, queen e4 is not one of them. But this just wins a rook. Like, it actually wins a rook. The best move for black here is to play king b6. And it's not even the best move to take the rook. But yeah, we can take the rook. And I think the reason this is not the best is if we follow the engine line, so this attacks the queen, we have to play here. This is the only move that saves it. Black gets to take this pawn back, and it defends the rook and reveals an attack on the queen. So now I can play queen d6, and we trade off. And just because I'm missing that queen, which was such a powerful attacking piece, you know, some of the advantages. It's still +4. It's still winning. I just thought that was kind of funny that it wasn't the top line by the engine. And, you know, if I'd spotted this, I would have played it in a second. And actually, I did spot it as soon as I played the wrong move, which was rook g4. Although it says it's one of the best moves. So there you go. I don't know what to say. Okay, and so the reason behind rook g4 is it defends this pawn. I saw that this diagonal was weak. Somehow I didn't spot queen e4, but I did see that the diagonal was weak, and so I wanted to play bishop g2, but if I do that on this move, then we just kind of give up this pawn. So, and I guess it's winning in this position still because we'll win the rook on the next move. But anyway, I didn't see the skewer idea. So I played rook g4. We got bishop b7, so my opponent spotted the tactic, and they defended it. I move my rook over. I'm trying to get d5 in. If I can get d5 in, all these lines come open. My knight has like a checking square. My rook's got an open line here. So really hoping I can get this off. They play king b5. And now you can see there's lots of defense to d5. And I get to play bishop f1, which pins the pawn to the king. So this is a really strong attacking move. And you can see just because the king's so open, I'm able to make such strong attacking moves. Okay, they play bishop d5, which is a really good move, really clutch move, because it stopped me from playing d5. And it forces me to think and try to find the best move here. And you can see I'm down to 2 minutes. And my opponent still has 14 minutes. So I have very limited time, and I got to find the right moves here. So I was very happy to have found b3. So it just attacks the pinned pawn, so they can't take it. Kind of nervous, just because you're pushing a pawn in front of your king. You're opening up this diagonal, but it's closed off because of this pawn. So I kind of saw b3 and was like, this has to be the best. We're attacking the pinned pawn. And if we get to open up this line here, we have so many attacking ideas. Yeah. So very happy. They go to defend it. I take it with check. So if they take back with the rook, we can win an exchange. So they take back with the bishop. Now we can trade bishops, and then we can try to play e5. Yeah, and just be careful not to blunder your rook. So, but yeah, so I said I said e5. I meant d5, of course. So now we pin the rook to the king. Now we can play d5 because this is no longer hanging because the rook is pinned. We get knight d7, which is looking to defend the rook, I guess. But now we get to play our move d5. This is attacked twice. It's only defended once. Probably the only move for black to keep playing is knight b6. Instead, we get knight c5. Black finally crumbles under the pressure. We can take this rook. It's check. And now they blunder mate in 1. And we win the game. So, yeah, really happy with that game. I put my opponent under a lot of pressure. I had to find some of the best moves. And, yeah, I learned a lot, I think. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.